for Woodbury County.
Alan Bacon
is now joining.
In the office next to me is Dan Priestley, Woodbury County Zoning Coordinator. Today is Monday, June 22nd, 2020. The time is just 5 minutes after 6 p.m. And I will let our chair, Chris Zelmerzant, go ahead and take it from here and open up the meeting.
Okay, so the opening remarks by the chair go as follows. Good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Woodbury County Zoning Commission. Today's date is Monday, June 22nd,
Shane Williams,
2020 at 6
Is
p.m.
now joining.
And the time is, I've got 6:02. So tonight's meeting will be audio taped and minutes will be prepared. In respect to all parties, we ask those present to turn off cell phones. Please don't do that. That won't work in tonight's meeting, or set to vibrate. Those in attendance are asked to legibly complete the attendance sheet upon the front table, which also you cannot do, but we know who's here. I would like to take a moment to review the procedures that the commission will follow tonight. First, the commission will handle the normal housekeeping agenda items. Then for each application on the agenda, I will open the public hearing on the item. The planning and zoning staff will then present the staff report, including the staff
Gary
recommendations.
Walters
Is now joining.
Any letters or other communication received from the public prior to the hearing will be entered into the record. The applicant will then have the opportunity to present his or her case and respond to the staff report. Next, we will hear comments from the public. If you would like to speak either in support of or against the application, you must come to the microphone or on your phone. Please state your name and address for the record. All interested parties shall be heard, but repetitious comments should be avoided. Repetitious or irrelevant comments may be ruled out of order by the chair. I ask that you remain respectful and courteous with your comments at all times. After all public comments have been heard, staff and applicant may make a closing statement. The hearing shall then be closed by motion and vote. Thereafter, no further comments from the staff, public, or applicant may be heard unless asked for by the commission. The commission shall then deliberate the case and may ask questions of the applicant, the staff, or any party offering testimony. However, such questions do not reopen the hearing for additional comments from the public unless they're requested or approved by the commission. The commission will then formulate and vote on a motion. The motion will typically either grant or deny the requested application. Any commission member who has an ex parte communication to place in the record of this meeting should do so prior to the beginning of the deliberation of the respective agenda item. Having said that, the first item on the agenda is any citizen wishing to be heard other than what is on tonight's agenda. Give you a little bit of time. Not hearing anyone, we're going to move on to item number 2 on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of May 26, 2020 meeting. Commissioners, do we have any corrections or additions?
this is Tom. I would make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion from Tom. Do I have a second?
This is Barb. I will second the motion.
Okay, Barb. So now I need all in favor say aye of accepting the minutes from the May 26th meeting.
Aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, same sign. Okay, the minutes of the last meeting have been approved. The next item on the agenda is proposed zoning ordinance map amendment or a rezone by Gail D. Weed. Dan, are you going to read the information into the record?
This evening. All right, here we go. This is David Gleiser, Director of Community Economic Development speaking. And commissioners, this amendment is being proposed concurrently with the minor subdivision proposal. The applicant, Gail Weed, owner of parcel 874614100007, which is address 2206 240th Street, Hornick, Iowa 51026, is requesting that the Commission and the Board of Supervisors rezone her property from the Agricultural Preservation Zoning District to the Agricultural Estates Zoning District. This request is being made to help facilitate and allow a relative of Ms. Weeds to reside permanently and live on the premises. What they intend to do is subdivide and split a parcel to allow her daughter to build a permanent residence and live on. This parcel is not located in a floodplain. And as always, we have went through and did our due diligence by contacting area and relevant stakeholders. All property owners within 1,000 feet and listed within the certified abstractor's affidavit that we received were notified by a July 12th, 2020 letter of the public hearing. As of June 18th, our office had not received any written comments from any property owners within that 1,000 feet. We did have one phone inquiry, which was just basically a general inquiry asking about the purpose of the rezone and the subdivision process.
Is now joining.
As you can review the stakeholder comments in your packet, there are no real obstructions to this request. I would make note that in your criteria, the staff analysis would make note of the compatibility and conformance with this request, along with other policies and plans of other agencies. Specifically, we wanted to just make note that Woodbury County Soil Water Conservation District was notified. They informed us of the first rank of the Luss Hills and that being adjacent to the Luss Hills Scenic Byway, they have some reservations or some considerations on the impact of the viewingscape of the Luss Hills, particularly from residential development in this area. We've also were contacted and coordinated with the Luss Hills Nature Conservancy. Dan spoke with their director, Mr. Graham McAfee, and we were informed that there are no real, I would say, barriers or policies that would be not compatible with those agencies. And so I guess I would just wanted to make that recognized. Those agencies appreciated us reaching out, and it's up to the individual landowner if they choose to work with those environmental agencies for future collaborations or coordination or technical assistance as it relates to living in that specific area. Soil samples and corn suitability ratings are provided. I guess I would say that overall this request appears to be compatible with the Woodbury County zoning ordinance. Section 3.01 of our zoning ordinance states that not more than 2 residences shall be allowed on any quarter section, a nominally 40-acre tract. And if a property owner wishes to subdivide to create more than 2 parcels on a quarter section, concurrently with the platting process, the zoning designation should be changed from the AP zoning district to an appropriate classification. Considering the location of this parcel in relation to the Luss Hills and the request that the applicant is making, staff believe that the agricultural estate zoning district is the best suited zoning district for this request, as its purpose is to provide for a limited increase in the amount of small acreage development, including controlled expansion of residential uses in appropriate locations throughout the county. That said, staff recommendation is to approve this request, and we will be happy to answer any questions that the staff or anyone from the public might have at this time.
Okay, do we have Gail Weed online with us tonight, or representative?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you like to make any comments to us, Gail, tonight?
I appreciate you guys doing this for me and doing what I would ask. I don't know how to go about doing this stuff, but I mean, I do appreciate you thinking about it and approving it, and it would really help me a lot on this, for my daughter to be down there and helping me with all the stuff that I have to, you know, the mowing and all that kind of stuff too. I don't know. Do you want to say anything? You want to say anything? I don't know what else to say. I mean.
Okay. I just
Gail,
wanted
this
to
is
confirm
David. I guess Dan and I are sitting here and we would just wanted to reiterate or to let you folks know that initially Dan was looking at our conditional use permit and that application process, as it does provide landowners to allow, you know, relatives or their farm workers to reside on the property and have that secondary structure. But in the long run, splitting the parcel and for purposes of financing and everything else, this is a better route, and we don't believe it will have any negative impacts to the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah, it shouldn't have. I don't think it should have any impact. I mean, it's pretty big property, so it shouldn't hurt anything, I wouldn't think anyway. But as far as I talked to all the neighbors, they all didn't disagree with me. I know that. So
Okay.
they were all for me. So
Okay.
how
This
soon
is
will I know the positive outcome of this?
well, hopefully in just a few minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have anybody in the public that wants to address this application? I'm hearing no one. Do we have any comments or questions from the commissioners?
No comment from Barb.
Pretty quiet crowd out there tonight on this one. Okay. If we have
This is
no
Tom.
further comment. Okay, Tom.
Sorry, Chris. This is Tom, and I would make the motion that we approve this for rezoning to Ag Estates, and no requirement, just notate that I did recognize the concerns regarding the Los Hills, and I'm sure, like they both expressed, that it's not going to be that much of an interference with this. So I would make the motion to approve this for rezoning to Ag Estates.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Barb. I will second that.
Okay. Do we have any further comments concerning this application? If not, can I get all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Dave, do you need roll call? I think that was unanimous. Dave or Dan? Are you there?
Chris, I
I'm
really
sorry,
think we should do.
we got it. Sorry about that. We were muted. Apologize.
Okay. So we got a unanimous approval of that proposed rezoning ordinance amendment, the rezone? Got it?
Copy that.
Okay. Next item then on the agenda is the minor subdivision proposal, also by Gail Weed. Do you want to read that information into the record, Dave or Dan?
Yes, absolutely. As we just mentioned, Gail D. Weed, owner of parcel 8746-141-00007, which is currently addressed 2206 240th Street, Hornick, Iowa, 51026. This is a minor subdivision proposal. It's being introduced and requested to add the creation of one lot with 8.9 acres for the purpose of constructing a residential home. And the property is greater than 2 miles from any incorporated area, so it did not require any extraterritorial review. Again, all property owners within the 1,000 feet and provided and listed on the certified abstractor's affidavit were notified. We had not received any written comment, and as of June 18th, our office had received just the one general phone inquiry asking about the purpose of the rezone and the subdivision process. Nothing, no real obstructions or barriers as it relates to legal notifications or input from our stakeholder review. And again, just making note of the first rank of the Luss Hills and the proximity to the Luss Hills Scenic Byway. Other than that, it's straightforward. We recommend approval.
Okay, Gail, again, I think it's probably going to be repetitious, but do you have any comments that you want to add to the public record?
Not really. Just thank you.
Okay, pretty much the same as what the last one was. I wanted to give you the
Yeah.
opportunity. Okay, commissioners, do we have any questions or comments? All right, I should have asked for the public comment, but I think we got most of that in writing. Do we have anybody from the public that wants to comment on this application? I'm not hearing anything. Commissioners? Any questions or comments, or are you ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion. This is Barb Parker. I make a motion that we approve this subdivision proposal.
Okay,
This is
We have a
Tom
motion.
Bride, and I second that motion with the also a condition we should probably do a roll call for our vote so we know.
yeah, we should do roll call. Right. Okay, so we have no further comments or questions. By roll call, can I get all in favor, say aye?
Okay, Chris Zelmer Zant,
Aye.
Barb Parker,
Aye.
Tom Bride.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, there you are. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Gail, you and your daughter, if you want, go ahead and hang up.
Okay, thank you.
You betcha.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay.
Multiple
the next
people are
item-
now exiting.
The next item on the agenda is a proposed zoning ordinance map amendment or a rezone. Do you want to read that information into the record too, Dave or Dan?
Absolutely. Applicant Brian Peterson is the owner of 3 parcels located in section 30, township 88 north. Those parcels are 8846-303-00012, parcel number 8846-303-00004, and parcel number 8846-303-00006. The request again is to ask the zoning commission and the board of supervisors to change the zoning district classification from agricultural preservation to the agricultural estates zoning district. And this is also just like the previous agenda item is being facilitated concurrently with the minor subdivision proposal. This subdivision proposal will create 13 buildable lots for residential homes and an outlot. It includes about 1 acre of land in the floodplain zone A. I would note that all property owners within 1,000 feet and listed within the certified abstractor's affidavit that we were provided were notified. As of June 18th, our office had received 3 general phone inquiries and 5 written comments from property owners within 1,000 feet. Those are in your packet as well. And let's see here. You also have a copy of the plat as well as some multimedia, some video and picture images that were shared as well. This particular piece of ground is not currently in, well, a portion of it is in the flood zone A. Working with FEMA, we know that their flood map that is soon to be published within the next 18 months shows a significant portion of this area being brought in. Throughout our stakeholder review process, we reached out to a number of individuals and agencies and spoke, at length with concern as it relates to the potential for flooding at this location. Based on our research and the feedback that we've received, we believe the staff feels comfortable with allowing this rezone to happen and to facilitate the minor subdivision request with the condition that the developer be required, and any person to build on any lot would be required to coordinate with the Iowa DNR to obtain the current base flood elevation to raise that property 1 foot above that. In accordance with those recommendations, staff feels comfortable with supporting this request.
Okay, do we have Brian Peterson or his representative in the audience tonight? Would you like to speak to this application?
Yes, this is Brian and Dan Peterson, and yeah, we would be happy to have you give your favorable consideration to this. We've actually been working on it for about 1.5 years, and we feel that we have met all of the requirements as they are currently written, and we would hope that that you would pass our zoning application.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the public that would like to speak to this map amendment proposal? If so, please state your name.
This is Gary Walters, and I'm the adjacent landowner to the west of this property. And I have provided several photos and a video of the water levels out there. My only concern is that the public record, and that being whether it's the county or the federal government or anybody in between that provides information about flood potential, adequately paints the accurate picture of the potential flooding on this property. And I know there were some comments made about the DNR and developer will have to pick a certain elevation and homes will have to be above that, but that all seems fairly vague at this moment, at least. And I am curious what that elevation is. Somewhere between 1,085 and 1,090, I think is probably where it makes a big difference between whether you'll have a lot of water on the property or none. And so I guess I would only caution the county to, make sure that they have done their research, and so that buyers of any of these pieces of property and come back with litigation against inaccurate maps or faulty maps or incomplete maps. The most buildable part of this parcel, in my opinion, is in the northwest corner, and that's the closest to my farm. I'm not necessarily against this because
Is now joining.
If someone did want to build on it, the best place would be the property right next to my own. So I'm not against it because I'm worried about a home next to my agricultural property, but I am also concerned about line of sight. There's a no passing zone along this half mile. I'm concerned about 11 driveways being condensed into this half a mile. It's called Walnut View because there's a row of walnut trees along the highway. they're, they obstruct the view and the vision of people coming in and out of the driveways. Even if they can get a home high enough to be above the floodplain, then they still have to have areas for septic tank drain fields. And I really question whether a drain field would be workable in any more than about 6 of these lots. And I would also be concerned about if there would be any covenants involved in this property. I don't want 11 double wide trailers sitting there either. So I don't know at what point in the process people care about the elevation of the floodplain and or the quality of improvements that happen there, but those are obviously concerns of mine. Does anyone have any questions about the pictures or video that I sent in, the perspective of what they're looking at? And I understand that the March 2019 flood was an incredible event and, took a multiple bunch of weather phenomenon to happen all at once for it to happen. But I have seen a lot of water in this area over the last 30 years, and I just caution the board to protect the public from surprises.
Thank you, Gary, for your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to address this application at this point in time from the public?
If now is okay, I would like to make a comment.
Who am I speaking to, please?
Sure. This is Nick Lars. I live at 1815 Bronson Blacktop, which is pretty much where Bronson Blacktop meets Old Highway 141. I guess first, thanks for the opportunity of letting me speak to this. My comments are kind of similar to Gary. I'm not here to campaign against this. I understand growth and I understand people need places to build homes in the area. I understand that. When I heard about the proposal there, my first concern, as Gary was how are they going to get the houses above to a safe level for water level, for utilities, septic, all of that. And so I can only assume that there is going to need to be a lot of fill brought in. And I don't know, I'm not the engineer. I don't know if there's enough dirt on the property to be able to move dirt around and make that work. I've come to your meetings before in the past to campaign for protection against the Los Hills Bluffs. And I know that if I was a developer standing on that lot looking around for fill dirt or a dirt borrow pit, directly across 141 is a giant Los Hills Bluff. I guess my biggest concern is that we don't get to a point where we're asking or taking dirt from the Los Hills Bluff to bring into this property to raise it up and develop it. My big concern is not so much the houses going in. It's protection of that bluff across the highway. I don't think the houses or the residential lots, would deter from what we're trying to protect as far as the Los Hills Bluff goes across the street from it, as long as we don't come to a point where we're taking that dirt and using it as fill. That's I guess my concern. The roads and the highway and the safe entrance, that's going to be up to the county engineer and everybody to figure out how to make that safe driveway accesses. I suppose those people do good at their jobs and they can probably find a way to do that. But that is a safety concern, and I think you guys probably already know that. So I think those are my only concerns. I just wanted to go on record with you guys this early in the process that I really hope we don't eyeball anything across the street to start taking fill from the Los Hills to go down and make this a buildable property. So With that, again, thanks for the opportunity to speak to this.
Thank you, Mr. Lars. I appreciate your comments. Do we have anyone else from the public that would like to make a comment concerning this application? Do we have any commissioners that would like to question or make comments? And then I think I'll turn it back over to the applicant to respond to the comments from the public.
This is Tom, and I guess some of the concerns that were addressed in this application by some of the parties that responded, we've got several. Number one, Gary Brown expressed the potential for the flooding of the roads, which, in 19 it was an event that was kind of unusual, but it's possible. The biggest thing I guess I'd like to stress, and it's kind of goes along with the county's position, is that if this were to be approved, that any of the building of the structures be the 1 foot above the base flood elevation. The septics that would be to be put in and used for this, the potential for them may have to be fairly expensive. Ivy Bremer explained the concerns there. Couldn't give an exact figure, but the dollar amount she estimated was between $18,000 and $20,000 for a septic for a potential cost. Can't really give an exact cost there, just for the fact that until the building permit and the everything's evaluated, they can't determine that. We have the comment from Neil Stockfleth, I think it is. I guess I'm all for property rights, an individual's right to do what he wants to with the property, he or she. But I also think we need to address these concerns along with Mark Nara's concerns for the driveway and the location of them, and possibly even the fact of a cul-de-sac or a frontage road.
Okay, thank you, Tom, for your observations and your comments. Barb, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I do. I'm very concerned about this, and I just want to note my concerns are the driveways on that road. That is a very well-used road, and people drive really fast on that. 11 driveways, I think, is going to be a bit much. Love to see some sort of compromise there on the driveways. And the other issues is that water. Like to note that I'm very concerned about the septic and how that's going to be a bit of expense too for property owners. So is there any way that we can work around and make sure that we get information to the property owners or the potential property owners?
Are you directing that at Dan or Dave?
Oh, everybody, I guess. I just like to.
We believe that a recommendation or a solution to that would be to have these conditions recorded on the deed or on the subdivision plat.
Okay.
So that way it stays with the owner.
Right.
And
Right.
I guess I would say that it's like I feel that the county engineer sort of provided a good, better, best set of options in terms of those drives. Clearly, what he would prefer as his first choice, and then he gives some other options. As Commissioner Bride mentioned, with regards to the well and septic, We did reach out to the Siouxland District Health Department and spoke with staff that regulate and oversee the permitting for wells and septics in Woodbury County. And they do have concerns due to the clay soil and potential issues with the water table in that area. But they would actually do an on-site inspection prior to any installation of any septic system to make sure that it's meeting setbacks and determine types of soils and layers present and so forth. It may not be the most ideal location where an individual might want to build, but nonetheless, it could be done. There would require a substantial amount of fill to be brought in. And in some areas, it'd be substantial just to bring it up to the same height of the road. But that being said, I guess, I've seen projects where a lot of dirt needed to be done, and it can be pulled off. And I would say that with the right recommendations or conditions, we do feel that this could be permitted and allowed under the auspices, and treating it just as if it were in a flood zone today, even though it's not, or the majority of it is not. But if we plan and treat it like it would be in the future mapping, we feel comfortable with that recommendation and that that outcome.
Dave, this is Tom. Do you by chance had Mark been in contact with the developer regarding the location or a potential different setup as far as a frontage or a cul-de-sac type road?
No, I have not. The plat that we received is the only sketch that I've seen. I would say that, or I would add that this request, it does fit within the county's future land use map it was mapped out as rural residential. So when the last comp plan was put together, those folks believed that this particular area of the road would serve well for a higher residential density. In analyzing it at the staff level today, we felt like the suburban residential, the higher residential density would be not as appropriate. And so we felt like the Ag Estates zoning district was better suited because it allows for more than two houses per quarter. It does try to retain the agricultural characteristics of the neighborhood, and it does provide for the larger lot sizes, which we felt like would be needed. As it relates to the drives and the entrances, we received that recommendation late in our stakeholder review process. And so unfortunately, honestly, neither staff nor the applicant have had a lot of time to really digest the county engineer's recommendation with the frontage road. And so I guess I would just say that that we haven't had a whole lot of time to talk about that.
I guess I'd direct this is Tom again. I'd direct the question to the developer. It was Brian or Dan. Is that something that could potentially work? Because it looked like the engineer's kind of concerned with that number of driveways in that short distance. Not that he's completely saying it won't happen or can't happen, but is there a way that it could possibly be combined or reduced to the number of drives onto the road? And I acknowledge this is kind of a tough question to ask you at the last minute, but is it something in your head that, well, maybe we could make that work?
Tom, this is Brian. We've actually Dan and Mark have been working on this, and what have you been working on, trying to make it one combined?
We've talked about having shared access driveways between two of the lots. Kind of per his recommendation of versus individual driveways. We have not come to a drawn-out solution for that, but it is, a preference of having a cul-de-sac off of it was his original preference, but we've talked about shared driveways, which we thought would kind of ease some of that access pressure, as well as still meet the needs of splitting it between 11 and not having some frontage road there.
And also, I believe there's 3 requirements when they look at a driveway. It's how many feet are you from the crest of a hill, how many feet are you from a curve, and how many feet are you from an intersection. And we've actually met those requirements. And also, when you talk about, well, it's like, well, I don't want to have a trail. It's like, well, there are building permits for the type of house that needs to be built. It's like, we're applying for a rezoning thing, not for a building permit. And anyone that wanted to build something on these lots would have to meet the requirements of the county as far as how many square foot the house is. Does it need to have a basement? What does the well need to be like? What does the septic system need to be like? What is the BFE level? All of those things, we are not asking for those today. Those would be actually covered and ensure all the other residents of Woodbury County that they were done correctly, because anything built here would have to follow the rules that a house built in the town of Lawton or Bronson would be in. And the last thing would be on the potential flooding issue. I've lived in this county my entire life, and in 50 some years, I think that was probably one of the worst. The flood we had in 19 was probably the worst thing that we've ever seen. It's like, well, it was a big enough flood to flood the entire town of Fornic. And so it isn't like, well, it flooded this, but it didn't. I mean, it flooded a small municipality in Woodbury County. And so I don't know, again, on that, it's like, there is a risk of everything. And right now, I think that it's like, it's not in the floodplain, and we would hope that it would be a good place for some people to live.
Brian, this is Chris Zant. A lot of the other agencies that are involved in this application have really expressed a lot of concerns, some of it which is safety, some of which is traffic, the flooding, fill, the septic tanks, the wells. I mean, it's not very often that we see a lot of these concerns come up. I'm curious as to why this location.
Well, we've actually worked on this for a couple years, and if you look at it, it's actually really nice. Especially on the lots that are further to the north. It's on a paved straight road. You'd overlook the valley, proximity to Sioux City. It's like and it would be less dense than 2 miles down the road. I don't know, on 210th Street as you go on D38 closer to Sergeant Bluff. It's like there's actually houses closer than what we would have these be together. It's like, we're looking at 10 lots along the frontage road there, and if you look at the houses right before you get to Sergeant Bluff on the south side of D38, they're actually more dense than they are right here, and that would be just 2 miles down the road.
Right. I know we learn a lot of things through history. I don't know how many accidents there have been on D38 in that area. I know it's a cautious zone because of the amount of traffic that comes in and out of those driveways. It doesn't necessarily condone that that's the way to go in the future. To be honest with you, we've seen a lot of crazy things happen in the future, flooding being one of them. They say this is going to be an ongoing situation as the amount of rainfall and the flooding that we have. We can't predict those kinds of things. I too believe in private property rights. Are you aware of all of the comments from all of the agencies and the neighbors and the pictures that have been provided?
So I think we made 26 copies of everything that you guys are looking at in front of you, and it's been sent
Okay.
to about everyone. And we have been trying to come up with a project that would adhere to all the rules as they're currently written. And we've worked on this for a long time, and I can't do a project or a development to meet everyone's needs. The only thing that I can do is meet the rules as they're currently written. And if some people think that the rules are not right or should be different, then that would be for the county to decide and not for us. I'm just trying, it's like we made a project that adheres to all the rules as they are written right now. And even like working with the access with Mark, it's like we are trying to actually improve it as we speak. So we're trying to do something that's safe. We're trying to do something within the rules. And to be honest with you, there is a really large demand for people that actually want to live in rural Woodbury County. And this, I think, would actually meet that demand.
So the information that you've seen and you've gotten hasn't created any pause to the development plans or second thoughts or concerns for you and the possibility of liability to you as a result of this development?
Well, probably the largest pause would be the potential of flooding. And the way that would be mitigated would be through the building permit for a house and being however many feet it is you need to be above the BFE. I believe that it's like there are there's risk, and so my uncle actually was killed on that road, and so yes, I know it's a dangerous road, but it's like also the rules that are in place have been put there by people thinking that this is the most safe thing to do. And so really what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to do things that are all within the rules that have been made by authorities in Woodbury County.
Mm-hmm. I know there's times when the rules may not be the best option, and there's been changes to rules because of those situations or experiences that we've had. Not saying that this is necessarily one, but we do have to look at public safety, and I'm a little bit more comfortable knowing that the requirements and the disclosures for this development would be on the title or on the deeds. I just want to make sure that the people who are buying these lots are fully aware of the situation and their potential risk. And sometimes we don't have safety nets for people who find out after they've purchased a lot. Maybe getting out of a situation that was more costly or something they didn't fully understand. I think those are my biggest concerns. Does that make sense?
We're actually trying to make this be a really nice project, and we're trying to do something where people can build homes and live, and we're trying. And if we didn't think that this, I'm not trying to do wrong by anybody by selling a lot so that they can build a house and live in Woodbury County and have their kids go to Lawton Bronson. We're not trying to do the wrong thing here. We're actually trying to make it be nice, and we're trying to live within the rules.
Okay. Just awareness. I think awareness is key. I had another thought, and I think I just lost it. But does anybody else have any other comments or questions at this point in time? Commissioners, public? I'm going to open it back up to some more comments or questions if something's come up that you have a concern with.
This is Gary Walters, and I guess I would just say that, if there's the demand for rural acreages that there seems to be, and I'm not disputing that there is, everybody would love to have 2 acres in the county. get away from city taxes, city congestion, city schools. The list is endless. But, the county's got a couple hundred acres, a whole lot closer to town that they ought to maybe be considering developing if the demand is so strong. And, are they using their land to the highest and best use? But I assume the commission's aware of where the county home farm is, and, that's a lot closer to town. It's got beautiful views, and if there's a demand for this kind of thing in the county, I think that would be a better site. And I know this hearing isn't about picking one place over another. It's just about Walnut View. I understand that, but I would caution that there are a whole lot of other places closer to town that would provide a lot of the advantages that this place might.
And just to speak to that, Mr. Walters, this is David Gleiser again, Director. A few years ago, I'd say within the last 3 to 4 years, the County Engineer's Office, the Office of Planning and Zoning, Office of Economic Development, and County Attorney's Office, we came together, formed a little working group, and we did an analysis on just that. And it would be in the county's best interest, at least at that point in time, to just go ahead and accept the cash rent on the farm rather than put in development costs to try to increase residential development.
So this is Gary again, and so how would you compare that to this property, and how can they drill all these wells and have all these septic systems and pay the initial price for the lot and have that be competitive in the marketplace? If the county couldn't do it, then I don't know. You have an answer to that. How's Brian going to make this work if it were a better location that had less hazards than this?
No, I think I understand. I mean, yeah, a lot of less impediments up there, or other locations than there are there, but we wouldn't pick a location that would have so many impediments to development.
Commissioners, are we ready to move on this, or do you have other questions, or?
And so your first action is to take action on the rezone request, and then we can get into the subdivision discussion.
That's what we're on. Map amendment proposal, agricultural preservation to Ag Estates. Commissioners.
This is Tom, and I guess I understand concerns on both sides. If we were to go ahead, I would probably have to offer a motion, but it would be conditional on the request or the fact of the 1 foot elevation above the base flood elevation that Bill Capuccio expressed. And I'm basically putting these in, like David explained earlier, that it's there for viewing of anybody that's purchasing the properties, along with the concerns and the conditions that it would have to meet, the conditions for the well, the septic that would be established by Siouxland District Health and approved. And then also the fact of the driveways regarding conditional that they work with Mark to condense and minimize any potential risk as far as the driveway locations are concerned and the number of driveways. I know that they had a short time to work on that. So I guess I would also put that condition in there that they work with Mark Nara to get his complete approval on that end.
Okay, so Dave, I think that was a motion. Do we need to read that back so we know what we're talking about here again?
Well, I think that the appropriate motion for this action or for this item would be to either vote it up or down to approve or to deny the request to rezone. The other things that Commissioner Bride was talking about would be appropriate on the subdivision.
Okay. So at this point in time, we need to just recommend to the Board of Supervisors to approve this rezoning. Basically based on the condition that the developer be required as per, I mean, this is staff recommendation right here, I believe, on the right thing. Word for word. On Bill Capuccio's comments to determine the base floodplain elevation through the IODNR's office and be subject to the Woodbury County Floodplain Development Ordinance, including new structures built 1 foot above the BFE. I think that's word for word.
Yeah, I don't know why that's on
Am I
there.
right?
I think that might have been a typo that should have been with the. I'm not sure, Dan. Is that supposed to be on there?
It was there, but.
For the next agenda item?
I would say what David had said before for the up or down, but
Okay. To approve the agriculture preservation to Ag Estates with no other conditions at this point.
This is Barb. I will make the motion for approval of the rezoning with no conditions.
Okay.
This is
Rezoning from
Tom.
preservation to Ag Estates, okay? Yeah, Tom.
This is Tom, and I would second the motion for the rezoning from ag preservation to ag estates.
Okay. So by roll call now, do you need ayes and nays?
okay.
David Van?
Okay, Chris Zelmer-Zant,
Aye.
Barb Parker,
Aye.
Tom Bride.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, so that leads us to the next item on the agenda, which is the Miter subdivision proposal for public hearing by Brian Peterson. And if you would, then basically the same information, only slightly different. You want to read that into the record too, Dan or Dave?
Sure. Mr. Peterson, owner of the same 3 parcels as just discussed in the rezone, which are all located in section 30 of Township 88 North. Those parcels are 8846-303-00012, parcel 8846-303-00004, and parcel 8846-303-00006. The applicant is requesting that the commission approve their minor subdivision proposal, which encompasses the creation of 13 new buildable lots for residential homes, an outlot on parcel 8846-303-00006, which does include about 1 acre currently in the floodplain zone A. And this, as you know, was just ran concurrently with the rezone request. The staff recommendation was to change the future land use map recommendation from a suburban residential zoning district. We recommended to an agricultural estate zoning district. You know the challenges that present this piece of property. And in analyzing it and making our recommendation, we felt that no one gave us a flat out no. Everyone acknowledged the challenges, and then provided recommendations to address those challenges. It would be up to the commission as to how they want to impose any additional conditions that may be more or less restrictive than those being recommended to you from folks such as Bill Capuccio, Larry Brown, Ivy Bremer, etc. And I guess we feel comfortable with any of the options that the commission may choose as it relates to the entrances. Again, felt like the county engineer gave his sort of good, better, and best recommendations. I'm not sure if, or I guess it would be, I'd give it up to the applicant if he's not satisfied with those proposals. But I know the county engineer did spend a considerable amount of time in the field, on site, coming up with what he wrote in your packets. So I'm not sure if he would have I'm not sure if he would have any other recommendations because this is what he sent us. Now, if the applicant was not satisfied with those or feels he's unable to meet those, then it would probably, start back at the drawing board and then maybe, those two need to have some one-on-one planning time. But as it has been presented to us, we feel with a minimum recommendation of requiring the BFE to be identified and to any structure to be located a minimum of 1 foot above that. And outside of that, whatever the commissioners are comfortable with approving, if it's one of those three options that was in your packet, staff is comfortable with those as well.
Okay, so seeing as this is another item on the agenda, I'm going to ask for comments again, but please don't repeat the comments that you had to the prior agenda item. I think we've got that on record. If there's something else that's different than what you might have commented on, feel free, public, to comment.
This is Gary Walters, and I guess I just find it hard to believe that the considerations that we've presented that suggest a negative outcome look to be totally overlooked and not considered. You're taking it into consideration, and they're all such serious issues that it just boggles my mind to think that it's not going to weigh on anything in the end. When you have safety, you have flooding. Those are the two most important things in life, and I won't say you're ignoring them because maybe you're going to put some considerations in there. But I tell you what, where's the next nearest zoned area like this? It's miles away, I think. So why do we have this big gap in the country, or down the county road? It's all ag. Then you're going to have this little island of condensed houses, and then you go on down the road and it's all ag again. It makes no sense in the grand scheme of things why you would have some houses in this half-mile stretch and, prevent me from having a hog house next door that I might want to build because I'm out in the middle of nowhere, no homes around at the moment, but, will stop me from being agricultural related in the future. That's my final comment.
Thank you, Gary, for your comment. Commissioners, public, anybody else want to comment? I have a question for the developer, for the applicant, either Brian or Dan, whoever wants to speak to it. Do you have an idea of where the fill ground is going to come from for this development?
This is Brian. In the past, we found when there's some houses being built, generally there's always excess dirt, and I can tell you they would not come. That would be up to the people that are building the place, because it would have to, you'd have to be above 1 foot above the floodplain. But usually there are places that are looking to get rid of dirt pretty often. There was when they built this, for example, when they built the school in Sergeant Bluff 6 months ago, or I can't remember how long ago it's been. It's longer than that. There were people calling out here trying to find some place where they could dump dirt, and specifically they wanted to get rid of dirt on D38. And so I don't know exactly where that would come from, but I can tell you that there's dirt many places that is available, not the Los Hills. There's dirt right by the, kind of like by the new Lowe's place. I know there's dirt where there's somebody trying to get rid of dirt right there. At our development in Sioux City, there's a developer there that actually wants to get rid of a lot of dirt, and so usually it's easier to be a taker of dirt than it is to be there's more people that want to give away dirt than there's people that want dirt. The other thing that I would say to you, back to the access, I would commit to you that we would work with the local authorities to try to make it as safe a project as we could.
So at this point, you don't intend to provide any fill dirt?
And I don't know how it's going to go, but my guess is that the first couple of houses they will actually have dirt left over. But at this point, I don't have any plans to provide dirt, but I can tell you that there generally are contractors not far from there that are looking for places to put dirt.
Do you have an idea what you want to sell these lots for?
I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't know. We've been working on it for a couple years, and we haven't put a price on them, and I don't know what that is going to be.
But you feel confident that these will sell under the circumstances that we've presented today?
I think that yes, I do. The economy is a little bit different right now, but it seems like there's a demand for this, or we would not have been. We've been working on this actually for a long time, and we would have not brought it to you if we didn't think it was the right thing to do. Just to give you color, we have a development inside, just right on the edge of town, that's now inside city limits. I think we developed 71 lots, and there's currently either someone living on or someone building on more than 25 of them as we speak. And so, yes, there is.
So you roughly have 45, 46 lots that are undeveloped or unclaimed at this point at Whispering Creek, I'm assuming. I don't remember the name of your development. I'm sorry.
They're almost all sold.
Is there a deadline for when people need to build? Do they have a time limit to show progress?
Daniel, can you speak to that? I don't think so.
Those lots have all been bought by builders within the last 6 months, and they have some HOA covenants on getting them built, but I think since January, they started construction on 7 new properties, I believe. So, there's demand there, and it's just continuing to grow.
What's the price range on those lots, just out of curiosity?
Well, I don't know why that's any relevant to this.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just curious about the marketability and the difference between being close to Sioux City and then out in more of the county area, under the circumstances.
The big difference would be city tax and city utilities versus out in the country. And,
Right.
The fact that people want to live out, they want their children to go to Lawton Bronson and not Sioux City, just kind of a big deal.
Mhm. Mhm.
I shouldn't say it. They want them to go to a smaller school as opposed to a larger school.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any other questions or comments?
This is Tom again, and I guess I'd direct this question to Dave. The section where on the floodplain analysis and the recommendation, it says the current floodplain map includes the majority of this property as not being located with the special floodplain hazard area. Presently, there is about 1,057 acres of floodplain located on proposed outlot of the minor subdivision, which is not meant for development. However, the draft map proposal almost entirely places the area proposed for subdivision in the future floodplain. Because we've already been notified of that, I know what Brian is saying. The rules are such right now that isn't the case, but it's going to be the case. Is that something that I understand when they come in for a building permit, then at that point, they're going to be dealing with whatever rules are in place at that time, even though this may be subdivided currently. If a house gets built on there and that's the case, they're going to have to abide by those rules, correct?
Yes, absolutely, Tom. And, depending on how they are financing their home, if it's, with a federally backed insured loan, then they are going to, have to take on flood insurance as well. And so that's why, as we know today, the majority of it's not. We know it's likely that the majority of that will. And so if the commission does approve it, we would recommend there be language that states any structure built be at least 1 foot above the BFE as determined by the Iowa DNR and built in accordance with the county's requirement for development in the special flood hazard area. And then as it relates to the drives, I suppose if we had to make a recommendation to the commission, we would recommend option 2, which would be what the county engineer noted as his preferred option.
And if I had to consider, this is Chris again, driveways, and knowing that highway, knowing the no passing zone and the distances required for safety, egress and ingress onto that highway, I'd be inclined to want an access road rather than individual driveways coming out onto that highway. And I know, Brian, you referred back to Sergeant Bluff and the development on 220th Street and G38. But I also know how hazard that is because I drive that several times a day myself, even though that was approved in the past. That's not to say that it's safe for the public long term, and we have to look at long term. Are you opposed to having an access street or drive for your lot?
No, I'm not opposed to it, but it's very expensive.
If it assures the buyers of your property's health and safety and those who use that highway, is it worth the expense?
Well, all we would be doing would be asking to be able to do what is done every place else in Woodbury County. We're not trying to change the rules. We're just submitting something that is equal to the rules that are written. And it's like, if the driveway should be further away or if something should be different, then the county should change the rules, because we are not applying to have the rules be changed. We're applying for something that meets the requirement that has been, that is written for Woodbury County. We're not trying to do anything different than anybody else that drives out on any road. We're not trying to get a driveway on the crest of a hill. We're not trying to get it on a curve, and we're not trying to get it close to an intersection. If you're going to drive out on a road, this would be as safe as anywhere, because it at least is relatively flat. And so, Mark's recommendations were that instead of having 11 driveways, try to make it be 5. And I will tell you that we commit to trying to meet his recommendations.
But you're willing to, and you're working toward option 2 at this time?
And option 2 is that we have combined driveways. Is that right, Daniel?
Mostly combined, a few singles.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. I will tell you that we are working towards that.
And Brian, this is Tom. I guess just to address your comment, there are subdivisions that do require internal roads and some that haven't. It just depends on the situation. I understand, your lots meet the site guidelines, the road frontage, that type of stuff. So it's not that the county would be picking on you as an example. It's just some are viewed in some instances to require either shared or internal drives. Like they've got Dunn Estates, Niles, second edition, and Bullmeyer, and also Burr Heights or something. Burr Heights was a long time ago. So it's a little of both, I think.
Yes, and that's why we're trying to have fewer driveways as opposed to one for each lot.
How cumbersome is that process when you're selling individual lots? Do you, Brian, as a developer, have to predetermine where the combined driveways are and that's already established, or people have to figure that out with their neighbor?
So before you answer that, who is doing this talking, please?
I'm sorry, this is Gary Walters.
Okay, thank you, Gary.
Sure.
Dan, do you want to answer that?
So the discussion on that would be, we would present and say this lot and this lot have a shared driveway. In talking to some of my real estate contacts, they don't feel like that would be too much of a deterrent, given the reasons why, right? For their safety, this is why we would want a shared driveway out.
Gary, this is Tom, and I'd like to just follow up on that too. The driveways are going to have to be approved by the county engineer, and that's the process that we're going through right now. By creating the subdivision, we then normally the driveway is actually located at this point, because we're trying to make them have fewer than 12 or 13, 14 driveways. That's where right now we're also saying the driveway locations will have to be approved of by the county engineer. So anything that they come forward with, he would have to say, yes, I will allow this, or I won't. So this is the process that sets where the driveways go in a subdivision, but because of the fact that we're making them go to fewer for safety concerns, that's why it's not spelled out currently.
Oh, okay, thank you. This is Gary.
Okay, so if no one else has any questions or comments, do we want to move forward with a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors? And if so, we have a lot of things that we have to address and include to be able to do that. Do commissioners, is anyone willing to make a movement on this? Either nay or yay?
This is Tom, and I guess I would come up with a motion to approve this based on the conditions that all structures would be built 1 foot above the base flood elevation as established. Also attached to that, the requirements that are going to come into play along with that for well height and locations, the septic type, design, and location. And Dave, I don't know, you said this can be attached so that it's knowledge upon any potential buyer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So like I said, the motion being that this would be conditional, that any structures are built in accordance with Bill Puccio's recommendations, that all new structures are built 1 foot above the base flood elevation. And also the fact that we are of the knowledge that this will more than likely be in the floodplain, so that would also place it under the requirements for the well casing, location and height, the approval of the septic location and design, which I'm aware could place a substantial cost, but if that's the case, where we're left. And then along with that, that this driveway locations would meet with the county engineer's approval for all driveways, whether they be shared or solo. And if it's his preference, option 2, or any conditions that he places above and beyond that for his approval.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand. I know there's several options by secondary roads, by Mark Narrow, as far as the driveway. When you mentioned solo, that still refers back to trying to combine as many driveways as possible. And I would just like to interject, I'd like to see a service road or an access road rather than driveways coming out onto the road on the highway. But I'm going to leave it up to Mark Nera's expertise and provide safety to the community. So we have a motion. I believe you're done with your motion.
Well, is that Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm
I
done.
guess I was just, is that a condition that you wanted to add to this, or do you want to leave it to Mark's discretion to condense
I'm willing to
and
leave it up to
safely?
Mark's. Yeah, I'm willing to leave it at Mark's discretion, but I'm encouraging strongly that they have an access road.
Okay, so I would
internal
be
road.
willing to add that to my motion, that his discretion, but strongly recommend location of an access road.
Do we have a motion? Barb, is there anything you want to add or subtract or comment on before we get a second?
No, that sounds really good.
Okay. Okay, so I'm looking for a second then.
I will make a second on that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. By roll call,
I'm sorry,
Dan or Dave?
Chair, could you clarify that, the drive part? I'm not sure if, I understand that.
Tom made the motion that I think it's option 2,
Okay,
and Tom, jump in anytime. Option 2, where they're
Yeah.
trying to combine driveways,
okay.
but I would like the engineer to strongly consider a service road or access road rather than combining driveways, but I'm going to leave it to his discretion.
Dave, this is Tom, and the reason why I didn't specifically state option 2 is possibly because this has been such a short term where they haven't worked on it that long. If there's another option that even comes up that's better, or additionally adding Chris's recommendation of a frontage road. I was just trying to leave a little bit of leadway there, so if Mark can come up with even a better idea than option 2 that maybe is suitable for everybody involved and the safest or even a safer option than the one that he's got under option 2. So that's why I specifically didn't add just option 2 as the
Okay.
recommendation.
So, sorry, are you asking the applicant and the county engineer and possibly Dan and I to revisit this and table the application, the subdivision application until this is identified? Because I don't think I wouldn't feel comfortable with having 2 sets of options. I mean, I would prefer that we would have a set,
I guess this is Tom again. I don't want to delay this for the applicants, but I also am looking at the concerns that have been expressed for individuals. And I know this was a short time frame where they didn't have a lot of time to look at fixing the driveway situation because it just kind of all of a sudden came up. So I guess if that's the case and you think maybe we should table this to allow them to work on this, I'm not telling them no, I'm just saying maybe we need to have, because normally when this comes before us, we have a plan that shows these are the driveway locations, and we don't have that before us. So it's hard for me to approve it not exactly knowing where they're going to be and what they're going to be, and that Mark NAR has signed off on them, and that's what I want.
Yeah, I mean, I guess whatever you folks want. This is gonna, after it goes from you folks make the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, and then they vote it up or down, yes or no. So as it relates to Tom's recommendation, I suppose that could work if Mr. Peterson and Mark can meet up and get that all squared out, or I guess it could work like that. It will delay it. I mean, it will delay it.
This is Gary
This is
Walters.
Brian. Could Could I comment? Could I make one comment?
Who's speaking, please?
This is Brian Peterson. Could I make one comment?
Yeah.
As it refers to option 2, on what page is that, Daniel?
34 of the PDF.
Option 2 has 1 solo driveway, 2 to 3 shared driveways. So how many total is it?
2 solo and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shared driveways.
Yeah, so it'd be 6 shared driveways, 2 solo driveways under option 2.
So that's just, the only more dense you could get that is if you condense the 2 solo driveways that he was okay with the approach on into a shared, and they're 2 lots apart from each other. So I think that from my perspective, yes, the plat doesn't show the driveways, which I don't believe that normally it does. I think that the driveway comes as a permitting process, from my understanding. But from option 2, his option and recommendation there is saying shared driveways across all of it except for 2 where he was okay with solo driveways. So I don't think it can get, as far as driveways, any more dense than that, unless you do a frontage road, which is.
That's my point. I mean, if the applicants are open to doing a frontage road and want to explore that, and, I would suggest then that's appropriate. But if they don't want to, I think you've got 2 other options the county engineer has already presented.
And we talked about this is Dan again. We talked about a shared or a frontage road and stuff with him, and we don't feel that that's the most feasible or best option for this, and that's why we talked to him about these shared driveways and what we could do to minimize that, and that's where we came up with option 2.
I guess I heard something that kind of concerns me, that option 2, because you're combining lots of driveways, and then like a service road or a frontage road is not feasible. Is feasibility more important than safety?
I think saying that there has to be a frontage road there will say no to the project.
I feel strongly about the safety, about any road in the county.
And we do too.
And so I guess that's why my push is towards the frontage road. Would you like more time to be able to discuss this with the engineer before we make any motions? We can table this until you have that opportunity.
So Daniel, I don't want to speak for you, but we've actually worked on it quite a bit, and a frontage road is not feasible for us. And so option 2 is the best thing that we could come up with. Option 1 would be actually better for us, but option 2 is more safe, and it's kind of like a happy medium between an unfeasible frontage road and having 13 driveways. And so this is what we came up with, and I don't know that we would come up with any other. I don't know that we would come up with. I mean, this is the only thing that we would come up. I don't know that time would give us any more than the 3 options. Is that right, Daniel?
Right.
This is Tom again. Dave, have you actually discussed this with Mark, or is it just a letter you received from him regarding location?
No, Dan and I have spoke with Mark at length about this request.
The reason I asked that question is this is probably one of the most reluctant letters to approve of a subdivision that he's presented us since I've been on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he does acknowledge if he was given his choice on the development of subdivisions with 3 or 4 lots, he'd prefer to see the lot served by an internal roadway, such as was done with others. And he's resistant for individual driveways. I mean, I'm just reading the same thing that you folks are looking at. He didn't give us a no. I guess, we raised those concerns and felt like he gave us options to address those concerns. And it's up to the commission or to this group of whatever you so choose. But I guess, if we had to make a recommendation, it'd be number 2, because I feel like it's the middle of the road option, I guess.
I'm at a loss. There's many things to weigh on this one. And like Tom said, we rarely see a letter from Mark Nara that's this detailed. And I guess it kind of reflects maybe his frustration and concerns. So as a secondary road individual, I mean, he has probably better knowledge than the rest of us what he views as being safe and manageable within the county without prohibiting development of marketable lots for interested purchasers of acreages within the county. Not trying to discourage that, because it's an opportunity for, like you said, Brian, people are getting out into the county and getting on their acreages, but still providing for a safe environment for county members. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You risk the safety and the liability, or you move forward and accept that risk.
And commissioners, I would add that, you're making a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. They could accept or reject your recommendation, I guess, so just putting that out there, that if you at some point we'll need to vote this up or down or make your recommendation, but your say isn't the final one, it's the Board of Supervisors.
Yep, we understand. Okay, so we had a motion. We have a second. And the hang-up seems to be the access drive or the frontage road. And if you need one or the other, I'd like to change the motion, and then the supervisors can do what they want to provide a frontage road as recommended by secondary roads. So that changes the motion.
Tom, do you want to rescind your motion and then let the chair make hers, her modified?
Yeah, I guess it's probably easier to rescind mine and let her modify it.
Thank you.
Okay, so do you have the wording from Tom's motion?
How about this? Any structure be built at least 1 foot above the base flood elevation as determined by the Iowa DNR. and built in accordance with the county's requirement for development in the special flood hazard area.
Okay.
And then I'm not sure how you want to word
And
the
then
drives.
follow the recommendation of secondary road, Mark Nara, for an access road or a frontage road.
Let's say, we'll say, any structure to be built above the base flood elevation and, an internal and recommend
Recommend as per Mark Nara's.
the lots be served by an internal roadway.
Perfect.
As an internal roadway. All right, let me see that again. All right. All right, so any structure would be built 1 foot above the base flood elevation in accordance with Iowa DNR, as well as in accordance with the county's requirement for development in the special flood hazard area. And the lots and the subdivision lot and the lots in the subdivision be served by an internal roadway.
Okay, so we have a motion. Can I have
This is
can I get
Barb.
a second?
Excuse me just a
Yeah,
minute.
go, Barb.
This is Barb. We had some language in there about the septic and the wells. Tom, do you want to add that into that motion at all?
This is Tom. That was going to be my question. Dave, did you just shorten that up by requiring in accordance with the floodplain, or does that language
Yes.
still need to be in that motion so that the septic and well are addressed?
That would be encompassed in it all.
Okay.
So we have a motion. Can I get a second?
This is Barb. You can get that second from me.
Okay. Any further comments? By roll call? Dan or Dave?
Okay, Chris Selmer Zamp,
Aye.
Barb Parker,
Aye.
Tom Bryan.
Aye.
Motion to recommend passes 3-0.
All right, and Dan and Brian, we will place this on the agenda for the Board of Supervisors for their next Tuesday evening board meeting, and Dan will contact you with that information accordingly.
Okay, this is Brian. Say, if I may, the quote that you have of Mark saying his recommendation in your final vote, that actually is incorrect. On page 34, it states that that we did request for individual lots and he would prefer to have shared driveways. He does not state that we need to have a frontage road. He actually requests a shared driveway, not a frontage road, as quoted in the document that you just passed.
On his
Page 34.
The first page of his letter, he says, if given my choice on development of subdivisions with more than 3 or 4 lots, I would prefer to see these lots served by an internal road, such as what was done with Dunn Estates, Niles Second Edition, the Bullmeyer subdivisions adjacent to County Route D12. Other examples include Sunview Estates and Bureau Heights Edition off 155th Street.
That's correct. That's correct. He said he prefers, he didn't say that he required it.
He prefers. Recommendation. It's his preference. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and your input tonight. I appreciate it. The public that participated, I appreciate your time and your energy that went into this decision. It goes to the supervisors. Dan, when is that? Or Dave?
I'll be next Tuesday evening.
What time?
Meeting starts at 4:30, but we'll have a scheduled public hearing and we'll make sure that they receive that information accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Today we're ready to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is proposed zoning ordinance map amendment rezone public hearing. Chad Swanger? Is that right?
Yes.
Gary Walters.
Is now exiting.
Do you want to read that into the record, Dan or Dave?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Chad Swanger of the Terry Swanger Irrevocable Trust, and they are owners of lots 1 through 5 in the Jan subdivision, and own parcels 8847-022-00002, parcel 8847-022-00004.
Is now exiting.
Sorry, parcel 8847-022-00005, parcel 8847-022-00006, and the last parcel 8847-022-00007. These are located along the Highway 20 corridor, about a mile east of Sioux City and about 4 miles west of Lawton. The request is that the zoning commission make a recommendation in favor to the Board of Supervisors to approve their request to rezone these 5 parcels from the agricultural estates zoning district to the general commercial zoning district for future commercial use. A piece of parcel 8847-022-00002 is located in the floodplain. I would say that this particular application or this particular request is in line with the county's future land use map, in the sense that it does show in the future land use map this area being an area that the county envisioned general commercial development. This particular piece of property, or these parcels, were rezoned in the early 2000s when Woodbury County was updating its general plan, and were rezoning large pieces of ground in the Port Neal industrial area, as well as pieces of ground along Highway 20, basically along the I-29 and Highway 20 corridors. The property owner at that time was unaware of the county's rezoning efforts, did not participate or petition or speak against the rezone at that time, but subsequently has engaged the county over the years about what it would take to get the land rezoned back to its originally general industrial classification. 17 property owners were notified within 1,000 feet that were provided on the certified abstractor's affidavit. We received, what was it, 2, Dan?
Yeah, a couple phone inquiries.
Just a couple of general phone inquiries wondering about what it was and the process. Haven't received anything since. As you can tell through the legal notification in our stakeholder review, there were some assets identified by various utilities in the area. Specifically, Northern Natural Gas has a large transmission line that runs through the pieces of property, which will affect the buildable area. Other utilities recognize that they have assets in the ground and that it would be at the owner's or the developer's expense to have anything relocated or brought onto site. With that, I would guess just note that this particular ground is unique because of its proximity to a multitude of zoning districts. We have agricultural preservation, agricultural estates, general industrial, and right across the road, general commercial as well. The stakeholder review has flushed out some concerns which were predominantly seen by the Iowa DOT and our secondary roads department. Specifically, with access, the DOT has concerns and is not willing to grant access off of Highway 20. So the property in question would need to be serviced on a county secondary roads. You can see from the secondary roads department and their letter dated June 9th, they have concerns and they've provided comments and recommendations to address those concerns. Specifically, that being, if this is approved by the zoning commission and the board of supervisors to change the zoning, secondary roads would like to see the developer enter into a paving agreement. And so that way, when traffic counts justify or warrant the need to pave the road, it would be at the majority of the developer's expense. Overall, Dan, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, but overall, with this particular piece of ground being mapped out in our county's future land use map, we, in working with the applicant, have talked them into requesting the zoning classification to drop down a level of intensity to just general commercial rather than light industrial. So while it was mapped for that particular use in the future, recognizing the proximity to these acreages not too far down the road, we felt that turning the intensity down to a general commercial use still fits in line with the county's development plans, while also recognizing the nature of the neighborhood. And we feel that with the recommendations that the county engineer has made, that we should be able to mitigate any concerns in the neighborhood for increased traffic due to commercial activity. Therefore, staff recommends the request be approved.
Okay, so Chad Swanger, are you online with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and are you the son of Terry Swanger?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Terry recently passed away, am I correct?
Yes, he passed away in December of 2019.
I'm sorry to hear of your loss.
Appreciate it.
Do you have any comments that you would like to add to the record concerning your application at this time?
No, I mean, I think, I think the county kind of covered it very well. I mean, I will simply say that, my father or my family's owned the ground since 1990. Been here for a long time. And like Dan and David kind of alluded to, it was just something that, got lost in the shuffle work. My father, he did pass away in December of last year, but back in, 10 years ago, I was living in Europe and he didn't get it in the mail or whatever happened, but he didn't, appear and he wasn't aware of it. It was just something we kind of wanted to, get changed, and we've worked with the county in different areas. And unfortunately with my father's health situation, it didn't quite go as fast as we would like because I was worried about making sure he was taken care of. And unfortunately he did pass away in December, but, I'd like to, get this done for him, even though he's no longer here.
Okay. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to comment or ask questions of this application?
Yes, I would actually. This is Dave Van Dyke. I live down the road, and I was just wondering what would happen if one of these parcels is sold and are, as you guys were saying earlier, that it'd be up to the developer to bring the road up to snuff, as in making sure that the increased travel is taken care of. That's my biggest concern, because right now, being on as a secondary, it's been an issue. keeping the road maintained.
Which direction do you live from the properties identified?
I live east.
You live east, okay, and some
Yep.
of the houses that are along the, okay,
Correct.
okay,
Correct.
okay. Hopefully we'll have the opportunity to address that tonight for
Yeah.
you.
Okay. And the other thing would be the watershed area through here, because we have a bunch that comes from a pretty farther east parcel. When it rains or something, it comes from the east and washes through parcel 0007, and then goes south from there across the
So
road.
the parcel you're talking about is owned by Swangers, is the 007, which abuts both the roads, is on the corner, that
Correct.
corner parcel?
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
it
I
is.
see there's a watershed there, and that seems to be
There's
increasing over the years, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
it is. It is. There's some natural springs in there too.
Okay. Okay.
Besides what
Thank you for
watersheds from the Flewelling Trust parcel that's to the east, and
To the east
actually
across the-
from and across Highway 20 straight to the north.
Okay.
Actually sheds back through there too.
Not to mention everything that comes off Highway 20 in that direction?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
It does.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. Commissioners, do we have any questions or comments at this time?
This is Tom. I guess I'd just like to follow up on the gentleman's last question regarding the paving agreement. That would follow at such time if the use and traffic were to require it. That basically is what that's doing, is following who would own it at that time. I think
Okay.
maybe you were misunderstanding that it's not the developer, but if the use of the property changes and you need to pave the road, the guy that owns it at that time, that's going to follow that title with that property. So whoever owns it, if it's the fourth person that bought it, they're going to have to put in that cost to pay. Is that correct, Dave?
Correct. And I'm just making sure that there's no more driveways or coming off of 20. They'd have to actually come down the road. And then
I don't think the DOT is going to allow for any drive access on 20.
Exactly, because it is a very dangerous area the way it is to even make that corner normally, because semis are coming up the hill, and them to slow down, even though they are going slower, they do not like it. Plus, we have a turn going to Mack Truck Dealer. So if you have two vehicles turning each way, people are slamming on the brakes already there. So,
Tom, this is David, and yes, you were correct in terms of whose responsibility that falls under if and when at some point in time those traffic counts become such that the county engineer will kick in that road policy. I would add that in working with Mr. Swanger over the last few weeks, I would acknowledge, I think everybody can acknowledge that there's some topography issues at this location. There's going to need to be some dirt work, and I think what Mr. Swanger is trying to do is, and this has been a helpful process by identifying some of these assets, these utilities in the ground and these easements. So he'll be able to identify and work with an engineer and to come up with a plat that would have sufficient access, easements, all those sorts of, basically what we're trying to figure out is where is the buildable area. He's aware that in order for this to be approved, he'd more than likely need to enter into a paving agreement, and that there's going to be inherent expenses as it relates to grading permits and all of the, what are those deals that come with the grading permits, Dan? I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, when you get a grading permit, usually depending on the level of acres, you have to go through the DNR approval.
Stormwater prevention
NPDES.
plan, NPDES, those sort of things. And so I believe Mr. Swanger knows what's ahead of him. I'm committed to working with him as well as helping him try to identify, appropriate commercial targets. And so we can find, some users that would be best suited for that particular neighborhood. Something that, hopefully doesn't bring in a lot of vehicle traffic, but something that could be, be complementary to the neighborhood and bring some tax base to the county. So.
Okay.
And Dave, this is Tom again. If you could just maybe address also for any individuals concerned, the other comment in there about implementing efforts, including building and site design, landscaping, screening to minimize adverse effects, future land use or development. Also, along with that is the grading permit's going to include requirements for runoff control and erosion control, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And yes, that was a recommendation, was to use the land and to help mitigate, and whether that's through screening, through landscaping, fencing, or what have you, and ensuring best efforts are made as it relates to the design of those particular parcels.
Okay, do we have any other comments or questions at this point in time, or are we ready to make a motion? Either for or against the amended proposal of ag preservation to general commercial?
This is Barb. I make a motion that we approve the request to change, to rezone to general commercial.
Okay. With the stipulations that staff recommended?
Yes, of course. Forgot that.
Okay. So I have a,
This
I have
is
a
Tom,
motion.
and I would second that motion with the addition of the staff recommendations that are listed.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, by roll call, either
Okay.
aye or nay.
Chris Zelmer-Zamp,
Aye.
Barb Parker,
Aye.
and Tom Bright.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes to recommend 3-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Chad. Dan and I will reach out to you and touch base with you on next steps tomorrow morning. Okay?
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You. Good night.
Multiple people are now exiting.
Sorry, that was such a brutal one today, folks.
I know, thanks a lot. Who do we have online right now? Do we still
Andy's
have
check.
commissioners online, and Dan and Dave?
This
This
Barb
is Tom.
here.
I'm on.
Okay. Okay, let's adjourn, or wait, we have number 8, any citizen listening
Shane
wishing to be
Williams.
heard?
Is now exiting.
Any citizen wishing to be heard? Hearing none, we'll go on to commissioners' comments or inquiries. Do we have any?
I resign. This is Barb. I'm tired.
Brian and Dan
You're
Peterson.
tired?
Is now
It was a
exiting.
joke. I'm sorry.
No,
It
you
was
can't. No, you can't. Okay,
No, I
Um,
have no comment.
do we want to adjourn this meeting and stay online for a minute?
Okay,
we
I'll
good to
make a
go?
motion to adjourn. I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:05.
Okay. Okay,
This is Tom, and I will second.
okay, by roll call, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chris Zelmerzant,
Aye.
Barb Parker,
Aye.
and Tom Bride.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 3-0.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. You got the recorder turned off?
Not yet.
Dear.